Hola, ya estamos en la sesión número 7 de Mantén, Encendido tu Amor. Sean siempre humildes y amables, sean pacientes unos con otros y tolérense las faltas por amor. Hagan todo lo posible por mantenerse unidos en el espíritu y enlazados mediante la paz. Estas son las palabras del apóstol Pablo en Efesios 4, 2 al 3. Son poderosas sus palabras. Pero ¿cómo lo hacemos? ¿Cómo podemos construir este tipo de relaciones que manifiestan el amor de Dios y transforman vidas y ambientes? Dani Silk nos habla acerca de esto en el siguiente video.
Welcome to Session 4 of the Keep Your Love On series. I'm Danny Silk, author of the book, Keep Your Love On. In this session, I'll outline the 7 pillars of healthy relationships. My goal is to help you understand what these 7 pillars are, when to apply them, and how they can help you have healthy relationships, whether at home, with the kids, or at work. We're going to talk now about really some of the infrastructure that's necessary to build a place that you want to live in. You know, that's again and again what we're doing. This is the reason that we're powerful, is that we want to live in the place that we're behaving towards. And so when you don't take that kind of responsibility, you just end up somewhere. And can you just imagine ending up with the house you live in or ending up with the car you drive? Well, some people just end up married. Some people just end up in relationships, and because there was no sense of purpose or intentionality behind what they built. Sherry and I, we come from a family background that, it's less than ideal, really, in many ways. We have an inheritance, if you will, that streams into both of our lives. Now, between my 2 parents and Sherry's 2 parents and her stepfather who raised her, so those are 5 people, each of them have been married 3 times. So there are 15 marriages that are washing into our life together. This would be the standard of covenant, of commitment, of keeping your love on. This would be the example that we have as a young married couple at 22 years old when we get married. We've seen a lot of broken relationships. I have a set of grandparents that stayed married for 54 years. Besides that, I don't know anybody who stayed married. Raised in a small town, it was very inspiring when I got saved, came into a church and met people who actually raised their children. Never met anybody who had children together and raised them. It was like, whoa, this is what Bigfoot looks like, you know? Like, really? I heard it was possible. This expectation, this standard is important because of how we end up being married. Our premarital story is 2 meetings with Pastor Bill Johnson. The first one was to take a Taylor-Johnson compatibility assessment. So we take that assessment together. The next one was to go over it. And so we went over it. And then we got married. Well, 12 years later, we are at Bill and Benny's house, and he has asked us to become his associate pastor up in Weaverville. So we're sitting around in the living room, and Sherry and I were disagreeing about something, and he starts laughing, and he says, this reminds me of that assessment that you guys took. He said, remember the note on that assessment? And I said, what note? He goes, the note that came back on your assessment. What note? He says, I didn't tell you about the note. Now he's got both of our attention. What note, Bill? He said, well, that's the craziest thing. I didn't tell you about the note, huh? And from the kitchen, Benny goes, Bill, you didn't tell them? And so we're now waiting for this story to unfold. And he says, well, the craziest thing, I had been doing those assessments for 10 years. I have the couple fill it out, stick it in the envelope, send it to the psychologist. He runs it through his computer, mails it back to me. I open it up. I go over the assessment. He says, I opened up yours. I pulled it out. There's a Post-it note. First time in 10 years. Oh, what did it say, Bill? He says, well, it says, Bill, do whatever you can to stop this marriage. And I said, that would explain the last 12 years of hell. Sherry and I were completely unprepared to be married. And we were completely incompatible. According to the professionals, we should stay away from each other. We had a really hard time. We had a really hard time because we're so completely different. And other than being believers, surrounded by other believers who were practicing covenant, we had no reason to stay married. This is easy. Walk away from it. It's easy. We've seen it done 12+ times. And so for us to stay in the marriage, we end up with 3 children. We are struggling. We are having a really tough time just enjoying each other, just liking each other. This June, it'll be 30 years. Stuff that we're sharing with you is stuff that we have learned deeply, that we have practiced. It's literally like taking bread off our own life and handing it out. It's not some ideas, it's not some theories, it's really just practice that has generated into food that we've been giving away for a really long time. So it's an honor to be able to share, knowing what has transpired to get to the spot that we stand today. I love to bring people hope who've lost hope, because I remember living in an absolutely hopeless situation. Sherry and I together were just banging our heads about how are we ever going to spend our lives together like this. And so learning what we've learned has not been something that I take lightly, and I know it's not something that you take lightly either. That's why you're in this room.
There are tools, and this is a great tool, to go in and just kind of do some self-evaluation and some inner healing. Each person's got some stuff. There's a reason why there's trouble, and there is hope. There's absolutely hope.
I think there's a real key element is the responsibility, as a partner in the marriage, but certainly as the male, to take much more responsibility for it. Our wives are often the product of our husbandry, and so I think a lot of times we look at the deficiencies of our wives, but really that's a deficiency of us as the leader of the home. And so I'd say the change that needs to occur is within the man himself.
A continuación, te dejamos 2 preguntas sugeridas para tu tiempo de diálogo. Número 1. Piensa en las relaciones, en tu familia, en el trabajo y en entornos de iglesia y amigos. ¿Eres una persona que se aleja cuando siente que aguantó mucho? ¿O te quedas? para mantener encendido el amor. ¿Por qué? Número 2. ¿Cuáles piensas son las cualidades que deben tener las relaciones sanas? Y el desafío para esta semana es el siguiente. Lee varias veces 1 Corintios capítulo 13. Identifica y anota las cualidades en las que tú debes crecer para tener conexiones relacionales sanas.